Do I count you in?
Yeah, you count me in.
Yeah, we're going live. In 3, 2.
Well, I'm kind of live.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Wonderful World of Weddings podcast. I am here with James Toohey, a great guest today. But before we get into that, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about our sponsor. We are sponsored by New England Wedding Expo, happening on April 16th in Marlborough, Massachusetts. Please go to newenglandweddingexpo.com. We are really running out of booths there. You'll find Be Remembered there, the other sponsor of this show. But we are over 50% capacity at the New England Wedding Expo, and a bunch of people are signing up to be there. Don't miss your chance to get free tickets before they go up in price. 150 are free. And now let's get into the show. Today, James is here to give us a level of intelligence. I don't know how high of one. No. He's going to give us some insight on the wedding industry from the photography and videography standpoint, which is really where his expertise lies. Now, James really can do anything with a camera, even from photo, which isn't your main expertise. It really comes from video.
But I have done photo and photo editing for quite some time.
Yeah, but I think it really comes down to, if you know a camera and you know where people are going to be at a wedding, you can make some things happen.
Yeah, I mean, if you just know what it is you're trying to do, as far as, if you're doing photo and trying to make sure that, there's a slightly different approach to it, as long as you know, like, hey, I'm doing photo, then I'm going to get into this mindset.
Yeah.
Video, I'm going to get into this mindset, and I'm going to use these techniques versus those techniques with the same camera.
Right. And so for all of you who may have seen the first episode of this, which was a little rough one, James came on and saved the day. So James is my business partner and really has handled the more technical side of things. And that's something that I think we have found a proper combination here between understanding how to use these cameras, these technical objects, and all of the equipment with them, and pairing that to knowing where and how to act on the day.
Yeah. This is something where on another podcast with Wedding Day Academy that I had Tyler and Payne, who are videographers and photographers from Be Remembered. We had a whole podcast on just being a professional, like what it is and what we do to stand out. I mean, you could be a great photographer, but if you don't know how to navigate the day, you don't know how to navigate different personalities, you don't know how to work with many different vendors, you kind of become a toxic vendor to everyone else. And it's going to be noticeable for guests, the couple, and everything. So we really hit hard on the professionalism side of just how do you conduct yourself, how do you make it an enjoyable process out of photography and videography.
Yeah, and I think so. Today our main topic is how to find the right one for you, right? And let's turn that on its head a little bit, because it isn't the right one for you. And I think this is where couples get a little, and this is my best advice for couples leading into the day, and help me out here and kind of going down this path, but it doesn't need to be about what's best for you as a couple. This bond, this idea of a good bond, I find, this is just from the, thousands of weddings that you and I have done, it's about a photographer who knows how to use their equipment properly, knows where to be and when to be there, and knows how to treat you on that day. Now, I mean, you can say that's a personal connection, but I would almost rather have them being able to connect with everyone else.
It's interesting because some people want to be like, well, everyone says, the photographer, you're going to be with them like the whole day. Like you're going to be with the couple the whole day.
Which we are.
Which makes sense because we are. Yeah. And they're like, we want to be like friends with the photographer. I said, you want a really good professional working relationship. You don't want a friendship relationship. Right. And there's a difference.
There is.
A professional relationship is we will respect each other and respect which each person's coming from. But as a photographer, being professional means I'm always in the best invested interest into you and what you're having me do and what you're paying for me to do. Right. Because the moment you make it like a personal friendship, you start getting onto a slippery slope. Yeah. You might get too laid back, too relaxed, and miss things. And it's always better as a professional to be a little bit on the edge. It's just making sure you're always doing something right. Yeah. So I mean, I always find that like photographers that know the couple personally when I'm doing videography is kind of like it's very noticeable. And then as a videographer, you feel extremely excluded.
Well,
So,
and you also make an interesting point, because I have seen the ones that are best friends and they are drinking and they're,
it gets too relaxed.
Right.
Too relaxed.
And so again, that being said though, right, I just had a couple that I did in December.
Mm-hmm.
These two I did feel a bond with. Now, but it came out of a professional relationship.
Right.
They said to me, they were awkward. They didn't know what to do because they weren't in a big, they weren't big photo takers.
Right. They're not, we say they're not like candid with cameras.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I've worked with so many of these people because I am one.
Mm.
And I helped this guy along, and we all did it together. And I came from a professional side of things, but I listened to them and I cared, and that was a part of my job. And a part of my job is emotional intelligence.
Well, yeah.
And people can think of that in a personal way, which it is, but it's also a professionalism piece.
Right.
And I think for photo and video, you need that.
Well, I always tell people it's like you don't really need to, they don't need to like you as a person. They have to like you as a professional. And those are two different things. Because I'm sure if I went and I showed everyone, the entire world everywhere, exactly how I am, who I am, what I think is funny and not funny, there's going to be like at least 50% of the people are going to hate me, because that's the world we live in.
50?
And then the other 50 are gonna love you. And but as a professional, it's, you have to keep it on a professional working relationship, because then you can help service so many more other people.
Right. You can get 95%.
Right. 95%. And not only that though, but that's just a better outcome for the couple. I mean, I've had, the end of the night where the couple's hugging me,
right,
and, I'm getting married this year in November, and they're going to say, oh, like, good luck with yours. Like,
right,
they're going to be very friendly, but all of it came from, like you said, a professional working relationship. Yeah. And in a professional working relationship, I'm trying to be empathetic. I'm like, when having a conversation, we had like some low time, the couple's asking questions to me, like just trying to get to know me a little bit. And I was saying like, oh, I'm getting married in like a year. And they're like, oh, that's so great. Like, were you having it and stuff? And so then they can say, oh, you're going through this too on a personal level. You're a professional in the wedding industry. And so the bond is still very professional. I mean, they don't know, they don't know my personal things about me,
right?
But they know enough where they can feel comfortable, and that's what's important.
Yeah, and I think that brings up a great point. When you go ahead and you, as a photographer, whether you're meeting them on the day or prior, you are going to spend very emotional moments with these individuals, and personal relationships do tend to come out of those personal moments. And so that's understandable. And what I say to all of you photographers and videographers, or any wedding professionals out there, especially photographers, and I speak from my personal experience, what I tend to find is you're in the rough together. I call it the hurricane, and I have for quite some time, especially for the bride and even the groom. You're getting all of these different inputs being pulled through you, from the jealous friend to the maid of the maid of honor, to the mother of the bride, the mother of the groom, right? Like all of these things they're swirling around you, people saying what they think of as a picture perfect day for their children. And they're doing it out of love. Even the jealousy is really out of love. And I think that it can be a lot. And so going in and reminding a couple, hey, look, I care about what you want, not only from a personal standpoint, but from a professional standpoint as well. Like, you paid me and I'm here to take care of you. And that's my job today. Yep. And what can I do for you? Sometimes just getting you water, or just checking up on you. Hey guys, do you eat today? Like, and it's funny because I had one couple just like, thank you so much for just asking if we ate. I'm like, what? And it was just like, again,
because nobody else is like really looking out for them.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting because as like all vendors, because I'm usually behind the soundboard for this podcast, and I've listened to a lot of these other vendors that's come through here. It's like, well, ultimately you're all working for the couple, so why isn't everyone
right
even taking care of the basic needs? As a couple, and we all have like those like horror stories of like those terrible vendors and stuff like that. But fortunately for all the guests that we've had here, I mean, it's been very
they've
professional,
been
very, you know, invested into the couple who is hiring them. And outside of that, it's really just they don't pay attention to it unless it's coming from the couple and what they want, which is important.
Well, all right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back with James. We're going to talk a little bit about finding the right photographer and videographer for you and going more in depth there. We hear a lot about style. We hear a lot about, you know, what should you expect from them in terms of communication, how to find them, etc. So we'll talk a little bit about that right when we come back from the break here on The Wonderful World of Weddings. We'll see you in just a bit. Thanks, guys. Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Wonderful World of Weddings. My name is Daniel Krikorian, and we are talking about photo and video today because photo and video, well, they save everything from that big day and put it into a beautiful package. But before we get right back into that, let's talk about the New England Wedding Expo, our sponsor here on today's show. Go to newenglandweddingexpo.com, get your tickets either as a vendor, we have a few booths left for you now, or get your tickets for free as a bride. You can go ahead. The first 150 guests, bride and all of your friends, can come for free. The ticket sales and prices will go up. So please make sure to do it now at newenglandweddingexpo.com. Back to the show, because we're going to talk to James right now. Having a good little conversation here about photo and video. James's technical background and his, number of weddings has been a little outrageous.
I've probably got hundreds at this point.
Yeah. So James and I started Be Remembered, and the amount of weddings that we've traveled all over for has been a little.
It's been a lot.
It's been a little ridiculous, to be honest with you. I've had people say to me, "How many have you done?" And I say thousands, and they're like, "What?" Like, yeah, like you
personally, probably. Personally, I've probably got like 300 or so.
Yeah, I did 78 this year. I think that's what we counted.
I think I did.
Although I added a few onto that. I don't know. It's too many.
No, it's crazy. But I mean, on top of that, the team did over 750 this year.
Yeah, it was a ridiculous amount
between photo and video. So it's a lot.
Photo and video alone. So yeah, we're going to get back to it. We've had some good insight. James is definitely going to bring a more technical and professionalism side. James teaches as well to the newly launched or being launched very soon Wedding Day Academy. You'll hear us kind of throw it in here, and we'll obviously put it out there more, maybe even bring some of the guys on from Wedding Day once that's all set up and running. So you guys can have some great insight there and understand, because one of the big things about Be Remembered is creating certified wedding professionals. And so
we want all of the photographers, videographers, and even in the future, more than just those two services, have certified certified people from Wedding Day Academy.
Yeah. And the big thing here is trying to create a standard. A lot of people, and we're going to get into some of these questions. So some of the big questions that are asked by couples is always, what's your style? And how do we match your vision? Is it the same as ours? I think that, and again, I'm going to let you talk more about this, but to me, it should be about the couple style, shouldn't it? And their visions.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about like how we're trying to create a standard, we're not talking about creating one sort of look or way of doing things as much as creating a work ethic and a style of professionalism, not just a style of videography or photography that guarantees that the couple will be more satisfied than trying to take a risk and hunting down a certain photographer that has a certain look or something like that. Now, I get there's photographers that'll find their niche and they have like this way of doing things, which is, I mean, good for them. But I always find that if you really want to call yourself a true professional, you should be able to match styles. You should be able to cater styles and looks and stuff like that to bring what the couple wants to life. So when it comes to videography, one of the biggest things that I've always found when it comes to styles is people, choosing music, and because music is literally what sets the mood for your video. And now some couples might not know what to pick. We're okay with taking genres and working around genres, because I swear some couples will just Google what songs should I put in my wedding video, and then just pick from the top of the list, because there's no way that every single person likes this song from the mid 2000s. And so it's like, so there's a lot of that when it comes to, styles and everything. I think a true professional should be able to ask you what you like and what styles or music taste or anything like that you like. Maybe style of editing for videos, like you like something that's a little bit more cinematic, or do you want something that's like just chronological, or
documentary?
Documentary style where it's just everything's just in chronological, or do you want to play with the idea of just this like going back and forth, like type editing styles, like there's
a little Quentin Tarantino,
like two converging stories put together. Like there's so many things. I mean, we've had couples come in and ask for, I want it to look like just a straight like James Bond like type of movie trailer. And we did it, and they loved it. Why? Because they gave us exactly what they were looking for. They gave us to this like a specific song. To that, I ended up mixing by taking sections out and putting them together so that it would be smoother for a wedding edit. And that's a totally different style from like what we consider like a standard like ask from a couple. But because we sat down and we had a conversation with them, we can pull those things off. We can, even though that is not what you would quote unquote say is our style, that doesn't matter, because we're professionals. And if you have an idea and you want to communicate that to us, we can make it happen.
Yeah. And I think one of the words that I hear from couples too often, which is a misconception, is standard. And, I was speaking to a woman the other day, and she said, oh, well, I want a photo shoot of my groom. That should be standard though, right? And I went, no.
There's nothing really standard.
And she said, what do you mean no? And I said, well, first of all, men don't like taking photos. And she's like, well, is that stereotyping? Yeah. What do you mean? Yeah. I mean, I look at 99% of weddings, and these men do not like to be, and I'm usually going based off of them. That being said, do you want that? Well, yes, of course I do. Then we will do it.
Yeah.
What do you mean we'll do it? Oh, well, we have no problem doing it. If you have the time built into your timeline, and we can go ahead, because that's the other tough part about photo and video. In any other world, and that's why Wedding Day Academy does have the specified wedding portion. In any other world, you reset. You say, hey, look, we have this time. We're going to schedule it. We're going to do this. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. Weddings, it's we have this time. We're going to schedule it. Oh, wait. Now we don't.
It is. We have this delay.
And now the priest said, hey, we're going at this time. Make sure they're ready. Screw their photo shoot. We're doing it. Right. Like the ceremony is starting. And you're
not working with a lot of control,
Right.
There's so many different things that will happen that might take priority, that will adjust and shift the scheduling, or weather permitting, to adjust how you would do your photo shoots.
Yeah, and the one big takeaway, too, that I think you can attest to is if you're petrified or you want a very specific shot list, my recommendation is more people. More photographers, more videographers. I mean, is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to make sure that the groomsmen are getting all their photos and they get their own photo shoot, but you don't want to sacrifice any photos with you in the bridal party, then you need a second shooter. I mean, if it's that important, then you need a second shooter.
And that's going to cost money.
And that's going to cost money, or you're going to sacrifice time spent to do each photo shoot to get a little bit of each.
Yep.
That, because you can't split one person in half.
No, and if you have different locations, that's just going to happen.
Multiple locations will impact that. And that goes for photo and video. Photography, because there's a lot of getting ready, especially getting ready in two completely different locations.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just going to be has to be a 2-shooter situation.
So let me ask you a question. If we're not going on and looking for a specific style because we feel like we can cater, we can get what we want, right? Which is a total flop in the industry. And we've actually heard that from some other vendors that we've had on this show. So say that's the case. What should a couple be looking for in terms of videos or photos? If they go on our website, let's say, what should they care about? Should they care about, poses, or should they care about style, or should they where should their head lead?
As far as like what would be like
the attracting feature?
Yeah, like what would be the thing that they have to look out for?
Yeah.
Well, I think if you're looking at just the quality of the work alone, I think for video it's going to come down to just your image quality, like things like, is the lighting well? How's the reception lighting look? Because I know a bunch of videographers that don't have any lights and everything just looks kind of dark. Things like that will be important. When it comes to photography and stuff, I mean, it's just really kind of quality. If you're not looking for a specific style and you're looking at like our website and there's a bunch of different styles, then, that actually might help you in the process of talking to us, saying like, I really like how these were done. And then that gives us a way to guide you, like, like we know how that was done because we did it, and we have all these different examples we can work off of. That will give us something closer to that product.
Yeah, 100%. And so we're going to take a quick break right here. When we come back, we're going to keep talking, and I think that leads perfectly into the type of communication that you want to have with that photographer, videographer, or company. So when we come back on The Wonderful World of Weddings, we'll be talking right here about photo and video. We are so happy to have you on here, and make sure to check out our sponsors link at newenglandweddingexpo.com to learn more. Thanks, guys.
Every step, writing stories that seek to be read, taking hold of the moment as we discover every color filled with wonder. Now we finally see we got everything we need. Here we go. All we need is an open road and a chance to see a never-ending world that's beautiful. Here we go with the sunlight on our skin. It's a brand new day. It's ours to take, and we will let it in. This is where the adventure begins.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to The Wonderful World of Weddings. My name is Daniel Krikorian. I am your host here. This show is sponsored by the New England Wedding Expo on April 16th in Marlborough at the Best Western Trade Center. You can join us with Be Remembered and a bunch of other vendors from across the New England area for photo, video, event planning. I think we have people from all over, some actual venues as well will be there. I'll have some treats there for you, some DJs. We'll make it all in one and have some fun. Look at that. Get your tickets today. First 150 guests are free, but prices will go up and vendors are packing up. If you're a vendor, please go on to newenglandweddingexpo.com and sign up right now. We don't want you to miss your spot. James, we're back here, and we were alluding to communication as a big factor for photo and video.
Yeah.
Prior to the day. And one of the big things is just knowing what you want. That's a huge factor for photo and video, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've had the occasional couple that doesn't say anything to you as far as what they're looking for, and you go through the whole day, and then after the fact, like, well, why didn't we get these and these, like this shot and that shot or whatever? It's like, well, we could.
Yeah.
If you just let us know. I mean, I can't read minds, and that's why communication's a big deal. I mean, if I don't know there's something that you really desperately want and it never gets to me, I can't do anything for you.
Well, let's reverse too, because we were talking about how on the website, seeing the quality of work, seeing the ability for posing, but knowing that we can manipulate based off your style and based off what you're looking for. If you show me a Pinterest photo as a photographer, I can usually mimic it. Now, if you show it to me and there's a beach and there's sunshine and you are trying to do this in the winter with a fireplace behind you, you need to understand what you actually like from that photo. It may not be the pose, it may be the background.
It might be the beach, yeah.
Right. And so, understanding these principles, which I get are tough, is a big factor here. Trusting your photographer, your videographer is a big factor here too. That being said, we can really capture anything as long as we have the time to do it, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, so when it comes to like communicating and stuff like that, that's why having like the whole process of when you're inquiring with a photographer or videographer, making sure that you're asking a lot of these questions. I know for photography, because it's been around for a while and some people have an easier understanding of it, they can kind of already assume certain things. When it comes to videography, there's a lot of couples who don't know anything about audio recording. The lighting situation is different for video. We would need to bring in our own lights and stuff like that. And then your different angles and stuff like that for the ceremony, stuff like that. I mean, it's a little bit different. And whenever I talk to couples before I do their wedding, I'm always making sure I explain some of these technical things because it might go over their head a little bit, but as long as they've gotten that like forewarning about something, like, hey, listen, like I'm gonna mic up this person, and I'm not gonna have mics for these readings or anything like that because it's only gonna be on shotgun mic because I only have so many mics to work with.
Right.
And as long as they know ahead of time, it's gonna be fine. They can anticipate it.
Or we can account for it. If you tell us, hey,
That's
look, I have 6 people speaking. I'm not going to put a mic on a person. I'm going to go ahead and put it on a podium, or I'm going to connect into a podium, or I'm going to say to the DJ, you got a handheld mic that I can plug into, so we're both getting good audio.
Can we pass a one mic that I can actually tap into? Right. And so there's a lot of like that type of communication ahead of time is going to be kind of important too. And I mean, if it was me trying to hire somebody to do a job, especially videography, that's pretty technical. And it's kind of funny because people always think that it's extremely creative, but I mean, if you don't know how to work a camera or any of the technical aspects, you aren't going to achieve any creativity. So when I talk to couples, I always make sure that they know that I'm in very good understanding of all the technical stuff. And these technical things are what's going to help me achieve what they're looking for. And then from that, they have a better understanding because it's easier to digest than being like, well, I just have a creative eye. That's not exactly explainable to a couple. So you gotta, as a vendor, you have to kind of explain a little bit of the technical stuff because you gotta have to understand these couples. They don't know anything about this type of stuff, or else they would be photographers and videographers themselves. Right.
And most of the time, you're looking on Instagram, you're looking on Pinterest, you're looking on Facebook, and again, I think it comes down to the fact of you may know what you like and don't like, but you don't understand why. And
you don't understand why.
To consider, you're not going to get that exact shot. No matter what you are, you're going to look different. Your partner's going to look different. Your background's going to look different. Your foreground's going to look different. Like, you can't expect to have the same shot. The question is, like, what did you actually like from that photo?
Well, that's also why I like having conversations with couples about that type of stuff, because, I can really get a good understanding of what it is they really like, and I can use the environment with which we're going to be in to achieve that. Right. And so, then, I mean, that's why I like having this conversation. That's why I think as a couple, if you're going to go into a conversation with a photographer or videographer, go in with examples, or either it's examples from that person's own portfolio or other places that you have found, and say, I really like these different type of things. And we can kind of start narrowing it down. Like, was it because it was super candid? Was it because it was very posed for these certain photos? I hate to say it, but like when you're posing for photography, it's not good for videography. Right. You want the candids. And I mean, that kind of goes into what we want to talk about is how much time should we allow for the photos and for the video. And so I always tell couples that, at least for me, unless they really, really want it, because that comes down to communicating with me what they want, just the family group photos
Yeah.
doesn't look good on video.
Right. And that's a perfect time to fly a drone.
It's a great time to fly a drone or
Yep.
get other type of shots
Yep.
that don't include the couple.
Establishing shots being one of them.
Yeah, like the shots, the venue, stuff like that. I mean, and it just doesn't look good for video. I don't like putting it into videos, but if you really, really want it, we'll put it in there. And there's not it's not that it's a problem. It's something that we just, unless you tell us, we're gonna kind of avoid and do something else and record something else. Or even just setting up for the reception, because then we got to reset our mics up with the DJ and test lighting and stuff like that. So that takes time.
Yeah.
And so for photography, videography, if you have a lot of family and you have a lot of group shots, I would recommend having a shot list and your photographer like ready to rifle through it and just find a quick, fast way to just go through it.
Yeah, like a good family member that knows the name.
That knows everyone.
Yeah.
That's another
absolutely
great
huge.
help.
Yeah. Great tip there.
And then like for video, for me personally, I love doing candids with couples because video, you need action, you need movement, you need something to compel the story forward and not be kind of just, here is a bunch of family members posing for a photo. So they look awkward. They look like they're trying to not blink and stuff like that. So like it just doesn't look good in video.
Right.
And so, but when we do have the time, and that time can vary. I mean, we always say it's cocktail hour, but I've had some weddings where it's like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and they have so much time. I mean, they have plenty of food for everyone, so no one's hungry. But they have so much time. We can go out to like a beach and get candies with just a couple because they really valued that time. And so, and that's where, I mean, photographers can still work with candids. And that's why when I'm working with another photographer, I say, how do you feel about candids? And after you do all of your, group photos and family portraits, can we go and do some candids? And a lot of what I will have a couple do, you can take photos of too. It's not impossible to get good photos out of it.
Yeah.
So,
well, in the group photos too, always do them first. Just a quick tip here. So that way you can send, like I even go largest group of people first and then start doing smaller ones. Because as soon as Uncle Bob and Aunt Susan are done, send them to cocktail hour and get them out of your hair. So that way you start making a group smaller and smaller, more obtainable.
Well, here's another pro tip. If you're going to do a first look, maybe that's a good time right after your first look to knock out a bunch of your wedding party's group photos. So that you only have just family after the ceremony, or even try to squeeze in family with that too. I've had a couple of couples do that before. And
especially if they enjoy cocktail hour and they want to talk to people.
Especially if they want to go and talk to people, enjoy cocktail hour and actually get drinks and eat and not feel like they're rushed. That's a great, like, do first look, then do all the pictures and everything before the ceremony. That way it's all done. And then you can get candids after the ceremony for like 20 minutes and then you have 40 minutes left of cocktail hour to still enjoy it. Right.
Well, that's a great place to stop for this segment here. We're going to be right back and we're going to talk a lot about, just kind of the overall summary of how to approach your photo and video, some more tips and tricks for you, and then some, kind of a fun story because God only knows James and I have some good ones here. So we'll be back in just a few. Speaking with James Toohey here on the Wonderful World of Weddings podcast. I'm Daniel Krikorian, your host. And just remember, go to NewEnglandWeddingExpo.com if you haven't already. It's NewEnglandWeddingExpo.com. You can get your tickets today. First 150 guests are free and vendors are filling up. We are well over 50% capacity, so we hope to see you there. And see you soon, guys. Thanks. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Wonderful World of Weddings podcast with Daniel Krikorian. I'm your host. I hope that's me. Who knows? So we're so happy to have you here joining us today, whether it's live on WCRN or through our podcast on any available place. I am joined here with James Toohey from Be Remembered. He is the COO of Be Remembered. He ran all of photo and video last year, which accounted for over 750 jobs, so quite a few. So that being said, I think he knows a little bit about photo and video.
A little bit. I've been doing it for a couple of years.
A little bit, yeah. So we've been really digging into, at first, the technical side. So I'd go back and listen to a little bit of that to see what you should be looking for, because I think it's a little different than the average consumer is told. And then on top of that, really now digging into the communication aspect in the day, because I think that is so important to build your day around what you want. And I know that sounds kind of broad and general, but if you too don't have a heavy emphasis on photo and video, I mean, that's one thing. But if it's your world to have photos and videos and your Instagram filled up, or you have a large party and family coming in and you want that in an album for the rest of your life because it's such an important day, which I'm totally in agreement with, build time for it. Right.
Yes.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Not to be rude, but like that is
there's also the build time and also the amount of coverage you should get, because that's another question that we always get all the time is, well, how long should I have you?
Yeah.
And I think the thing is like for the bride and groom, you want like the getting ready and stuff like that, because it helps build the anticipation, whether it's for photo or video. You want to show the story the whole day.
And there's so much into the getting ready. There's so much that happens.
A lot of detail shots and everything. If you have a lot of different heirlooms that you want to make sure, or different little like memorial things that you have, like a popular one is for the bouquet, they'll have like pictures of loved ones and stuff like that.
Right, like we were talking to that florist, and we had a wonderful florist from Just Bloomed Weddings here on the show, and she was talking about that heirloom. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, and I mean, our job is to make sure we capture all these different details so that you could see them and not just see them later on, but you put it in the full photo album, you put it in the video, and it helps tell the story a little bit more, because it shows more of the couple and like what they're about.
Yeah,
and so
and everyone who brought them there too.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you want everything from like the getting ready all the way through until like the dance floor is just opening. Like that's really kind of the scope of what you're looking at, because I've filmed and have edited these videos before where the couple just didn't have in the budget to have a videographer for very long, and we're only there for like 4 or 5 hours, and it's from like the ceremony on, and that video just feels a little empty, and a little hard to start,
because the ceremony isn't the whole day. It isn't it's a huge part of the day. Don't get me wrong,
but you have so much build up before then.
There's so much.
It's like going right into what should be like the climax of the story.
Yeah.
And from there, and that's why the story feels.
But if you don't have, you're right. Because if you don't have all three aspects of your story,
you need anticipation. You know,
right.
You need a little bit of drama, anticipation, or something to kind of help guide you into the big moment, which is the first kiss, and then you go right into introductions. The pace picks up, everything's much more excitable.
Yeah.
So,
and for all of you who have been listening to our podcast, maybe have listened to our planning podcast prior with Alicia, or our coordination with Elise, or even Olio, who was on here just a few weeks ago. We did talk about timeline. For us, we're typically recommending about 2 hours prior to ceremony for getting ready.
Yeah, just about. Yeah.
I mean, it all depends. If you're far away, if you're at the venue, you can change that up.
It's not a one size fit all, but the concept is the same. You want some getting ready stuff, and then lead into ceremony, and then stuff happening after ceremony, which is all your candids and reception. So at this time, this is our last segment of the show. We always like to tell some interesting stories about what has happened. Now, your stories are also typically my stories, but you have one that I'm unaware of. So yes, I'm always happy to hear new ones. I have not told you this story yet. So my father is a train conductor for Amtrak. Yeah, and he works the Boston to New York line, which means he goes through Connecticut. And he's going through Connecticut, and he's making announcements. And this woman who's sitting there saying, "Oh, you have a really great voice. You should do voiceover work and stuff like that." And he's like, "Oh, funny enough that my son works in film and photo and stuff like that, and I have done some voiceover work for him before." And he's like, she just looked at him and was like, "You mean Be Remembered?" And it was the weirdest thing. My dad's like, "Yeah, my son's and she's like, "Oh, they did my wedding. They're so great." And he's like, "Oh yeah, no, my son's like he sees her often. Like almost every day, because she takes the train to work." That is then bizarre. She he's like, yeah, no, he's the tall, redhead and everything. She's like, oh no, they were so great. I wish I could work with them again. They were fantastic. I mean, and that's the funniest thing is like, that's the level of impact that we had on people.
Right.
Like you think that this is not just about just good photos and good videography. I mean, yes, it is.
Right.
And and we do it so much that we can't help to be good at it.
Right.
But it's the impact you have on people.
Yeah.
That really lasts. Like they enjoyed their day so much and enjoyed working with us that out of nowhere, that they ran into like my father and couldn't stop saying how great we were and how my dad's like, well, they do family portraits and stuff like that. I'm sure if you reach out to them, they'll take care of you. And they're like, oh, she's like, oh, I should do that. Like, it's great. Like,
wow.
So, and it's just kind of funny because like you just never know, and you had such a great impact that the first thing she thinks of is like it's got to be remembered.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
I mean, that's absolutely fabulous. That is fantastic.
Yeah, and my dad runs into her all the time.
What a small world.
It is such a small world.
That's amazing.
But I mean, we do a lot of weddings, sure, but you also have that much of an impact. It matters.
Yeah, you can apply that skill to other places as well, and I think that just goes into the experience quite a bit. One of the things that we've been touted for, and I think that we've triumphed, is this incredible experience with the couple.
Right.
And why does that matter? I remember in the beginning when James and I started this, we were looking at reviews, and a lot of great photographers with these individualized styles. And guys, I'm not saying anything negative. Just please understand. We saw the fact that it was great photos, but either not what I wanted and didn't listen, or it was all about them. And the thing is,
and I've been to weddings where the photographer, it definitely felt like that, and the couple seemed exhausted from it.
They're not only exhausted, it also doesn't feel genuine. One of the things that I had such a great amount of success with is these couples that don't know what the heck to do in front of a camera, and breaking down that barrier using that emotional intelligence and saying, hey, look, this isn't a forced thing. This isn't, photos from third grade.
Right.
We're actually going to have fun today because not only did you pay me for that, and that being aside, like this is your love story and we're going to tell it right.
It's like the same thing for me with videography. Some people can't take directions very well. So I simplify it as much as I possibly can. I always go to the couple and say, I'm not going to ask you to do anything that you don't already know how to do. You know how to walk and hold hands. You know how to hug and embrace each other. You know how to kiss each other. I'm not going to tell you anything that you don't already know how to do and aren't already comfortable with doing. Yeah. So, and then that makes it so much easier. Yeah. For them to digest.
But you get more candid moments because they're genuine and
they break some ice and get them comfortable.
And they look happy. And those photos, when you see a beautiful photo, and you smile after seeing it, it's because
it's the experience
real emotion.
Of that. Yeah, it's the experience of the photo too. I mean, if you have really great photos, but working with your photographer was a pain, you're not going to feel as connected to those photos. But if you have a great photo or a great video and you loved the people you worked with to create that, then you're going to be so much more emotionally connected to that work. Yep. And for us, I mean, we want you to feel that emotionally connected. We want you to feel like there's so many weddings where I watch back and I'm like, that was a great wedding. Yeah. Or I enjoyed that. Or that couple was so much fun.
And you can't help but smile.
Yeah. And you feel accomplished from those videos. And so, and that's an important thing. Like if the experience is like the first and foremost important thing that as a couple, when you're hiring a photographer or videographer, is right from the get-go, when speaking with them about inquiring, was the experience good? Did you enjoy talking to them? Did you enjoy what they had to say about, the art of, filming and photography? And if they didn't, did they seem interested in you? And I think that's a big thing. At Be Remember, we're always interested in
what you
our
want.
people and our couples and what they want and achieving what they want. And that's why we have so much communication with them. Yep. And we attempt so much communication. Yep. And it comes out a lot better.
Yeah. So, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure having James on here. Usually at this point of the show, I would have him plug where to go to find him. But you can find him right at Be Remembered. And if you haven't heard about how to find Be Remembered, go to BeRememberedWeddings.com and check out the film portfolio. Check out the film page where you can actually see what the different options for videos are and what they incorporate.
I'll also be at the Wedding Expo, the New England Wedding Expo. So if you want to come 16th. In, I could sit and talk cameras and photography, videography, way more in depth than what like an hour long segment. But you can come in and ask any other questions.
Yep. Wonderful. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, James. We'll have him back on another day too. If you have any questions, go to BeRememberedWeddings.com/podcast to send them out to us. This has been The Wonderful World of Weddings, and my name is Daniel Krikorian. Thanks, guys.